So here's our leather flask. After sitting overnight, it's still, there's still some moisture in here. It's got a few hours still to sit yet. It's coming out nicely as far as I'm concerned. I think I like it, the way it's turning out. But what we're going to do now is we're going to stain the cork. We don't have to, but we're gonna. So I'm gonna take the cork out, and in my stainless steel bowl here I've got some black walnut stain. I've got plenty of it. Right now is the season. It's actually October beginning, not October, it's August, excuse me. It's the beginning of August, and the black walnuts are in season for those people that can harvest them and use the husk to make stain that also helps dye your hair, blah blah blah. Look it up. Again, I got a whole another video on that sort of thing, but I'm gonna use this stain as a natural stain to dye this whitish cork here. Alright, just so it kind of blends in with the whole motif. Alright, so I'm gonna take this and just pour this in here in this jar. This jar is probably too big. I have other containers, and I preserve this by using no smell really, nothing disagreeable, and I've had this since 2018, right? So and I've got a couple of jars. Yeah, this stuff works. It's actually very, very good. And so I just dropped this in there. I'm gonna let it sit. It's probably gonna be a darker stain or whatever, and that's fine. Black walnuts, anybody that's ever played with them knows that immediately the green husk will stain your fingers and things. Squirrels love them. That's them. I don't know why, but they're quite a lot of tannins in it. But they make a very good dye for wood, in a natural stain. So I'm gonna just kind of swirl this in and probably get a fork so my fingers aren't all looking icky. Just to kind of swirl this around, and then just to give it that natural rustic look. Don't have to do this. This is an extra step. Our flask, our leather canteen here, and then I went on ahead and dyed the cork here, and I already cut a groove in. We'll deal with that later, but for now let's empty out the popcorn. I'm gonna set the cork aside, and we're just gonna empty out the popcorn. Alright, yeah, that was a lot of popcorn, right? Make sure it's all out of there. And so this is how we're able to retain the shape, right? So I'm going to go ahead and set this aside, but there's a side note. The side note is that when I put this popcorn back in the container here, I have these little dry packets, or basically they're the silica gel thingies, because this was popcorn and it was dry, but it soaked up moisture. I don't want this to get moldy. I don't want this to go bad, and so I'm going to put this back in the jar, and I'm also going to put these dry packs in here and leave this open for a day or two, just so that they dry out again, so I can reuse them for another project, and or I can make some popcorn, because I do actually love popcorn a lot. So anyways, but I find popcorn to work pretty well. Rice, for me at least, would be probably a bit of a mess. And we do eat a lot of rice in our household, so I don't want it to go to waste. Yada yada yada. Anyhow, I'm going to remove that, but that's the tip. That's the side tip. If you choose to use popcorn, it's reusable. I would just get you some silica packs so that you can put it back in the bag, or put it back in your bottle or container or whatever for later use. So next in our project comes the crucial part, making it waterproof, okay? And that's going to entail using some beeswax. So I'm gonna change the setup here, and it's kind of a bit of a messy process a bit. And we're going to basically pour melted beeswax into our canteen here and make sure that all the seams are covered with beeswax, because that's where it's going to leak from. If I was to try to fill this up with water now, it would not be very watertight. It would be somewhat watertight, but not very watertight. What we want is watertightness. So we're going to use, this is a magic trick, we're going to use beeswax. Now, I'm not going to, I will rub this down with some atomized beeswax on the outside to give it a sheen, but I am not going to put beeswax on the outside. I don't think the way that this vegetable tan leather is treated, it's necessary. It's watertight by itself, but the seams here are where the leakage is going to happen. And we definitely want to make sure that the bottom and up here at the nozzles are covered with beeswax inside. So I'm going to set up my setup here, basically a double boiler sort of situation, melt down some beeswax, and we'll get to work. So I have my little electric burner here that is quite convenient, and I have a whole pot full of water that's actually dedicated to this sort of process. I also have my Pyrex cup that's dedicated to this process that already has some chunks of wax that I have. Now you can go to your local farmer's market, your health food store, your Whole Food store, whatever, and buy chunks of wax. You can also go online, and oftentimes you can take the wax and you can shred it on a grater, and then you can spoon it out depending on what recipes you need for wax, if you're making ointments or salves or whatever, blah blah blah. In this particular case, a big old chunk block, which this was at one point. It's no longer, because I let it sit in the freezer for about 3 hours or so, and I took a hammer to it and broke it up so I could distribute it like this. Now, when we're all said and done, like this piece here, I put it in a plastic. Ice tray and put it back in the freezer, and it froze into these nice little pieces like this for easy distribution. So basically I'm making a double boiler situation here, where the heat from the water, because this is water filled in here, is going to transfer to the glass here, and it's going to melt this wax. And so that's what we want. We want the wax melted so that we can coat the inside of our canteen, leather canteen, so that it becomes waterproof. So this is how the double boiler is working. It's melting the beeswax like I want it to. I may add a little bit of water just so it doesn't boil all the way down and you get burning or scorching. But while it's doing this thing, we're going to concentrate on something else while we're doing that. So we're kind of making use of our time. So remember our cork, right? And I cut a gouge into it. I'm making a cork retainer for it. And this is some spun dogbane fibers that I hand spun. And really all I'm going to do is I'm just going to wrap this around. And there's many different ways I could do this. Many different ways. But I'm just gonna wrap this around the groove that I cut here, and I'm going to make a granny knot, or a reverse knot, or it's not a reverse knot, just a granny knot, just an overhand knot basically. And I'm doing this off camera. And yes, I do have a video on how to do an overhand knot. But I basically have it like this, and all I'm going to do is cinch it up. Now this is going to be a retainer for our cork, so that we don't lose the cork when we're opening our flask to drink out of. Okay, like this. Okay. So I'm trying to keep the string out of the pot here and away from the fire, the heat. But I basically want to just make a knot like this for the cork. And all I'm going to do now is I'm going to basically reverse twist these fibers here. And you know, done plenty of videos on that on my channel on how to reverse twist for the length that I need. And then I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna attach this to our canteen in a minute. But while this is melting, you know, might as well make good use of that time. So I'm just gonna reverse twist this length for a minute, for a bit, and then we'll come back to this later. Dogbane is very, very strong fiber. It's good for bowstrings, good for nets, clothing, etc., etc. Alright, so we have our flask here that is shaped. It's just not watertight. And we have our melted wax here. And I'm going to turn down the heat a little bit. I may have to turn it up. And we may have to do this a few times, 2 to 3 times, right? I may not be able to adjust the camera every time, but I'm taking a metal funnel, and I'm putting it inside of the flask here. Okay, and then I'm going to take, that's why these cool Pyrex cups are good, because they're cool to the touch. I can touch this and I can pour the wax into the funnel here and then slosh it around, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, and carefully, so I don't scald myself with hot wax. It's not my intention. I'm going to take this and pour this in, put this back in the water. Now what's going on here is that I do have our flask filled with this hot wax that's going to go, and I'm moving it around, and I'm going to do this over the sink, which is next to me, so I can seal the seams. Okay, I moved the camera so you can see exactly what I'm doing, because this is going to be the first time I'm doing it, and I actually want to do it all over on the inside, right? Kind of want to move it around, okay, so it gets into the seams. Okay, and then what you will see here on camera is, now on one side I'm pouring out so it hits the seams on one side into the cup again. I'm going to stop, I'm going to roll it around, I'm going to pour some out on the other side of the seam so some of that can get, and I'm going to roll it around and continue that, so all of it's getting coated on the inside with wax. That's kind of the goal. I hope you understand the concept. I try to explain things on this channel conceptually, not holistically, so people think, oh, that's just one way to do it. I want you to get the concept. Okay, so now we can look at this and we can see that it's coated with wax on the inside a little bit, right? And then we're gonna let this melt down and heat up some more, and we're gonna do it again. We're gonna do it probably about 3 times, and then we're gonna give it a try. And then any places that there's leakage, we're going to try to concentrate on those areas. But that's kind of the goal with this sort of project. Okay, so it's a little warm, you know, it's not too hot to the touch for me, but you know, again, I just want to be careful, and I don't want to get wax everywhere either, because beeswax is a nuisance to get out. It's not impossible, it's just a nuisance. So we'll let this continue to melt down. I'll add a little bit more water, I may add a little bit more wax, but I want to make sure at least this project is fully coated. So this is again how I'm doing this with a funnel. I'm taking my melted wax, it's a metal funnel. I could probably pour it directly in there, but I'm just taking the melted beeswax And again, I kind of want to work it around, all around the edges here, and let it coat, right? It's kind of on the inside, right? So even in the sink here, and we have a garbage disposal, so I got to be careful because I don't want to clog up the garbage disposal. But even here, I'm seeing that some of the seams are not getting, properly sealed, because I can blow into it. And then when I blow into it and the air passes through, although I can't seem to tell when or where the air is passing through, at least I know it's not airtight. So like I've been told, or like I've learned, is that this is not a one-step process. It's kind of a 2 or 3-step process, maybe 4, depending on the design of your flask. And again, I just poured it out, but I wanted to show you the rest of this process until we get it done. I'm going to continue doing this until it's actually watertight, or rather I can blow into this and it's going to want to inflate, or it's going to push back, meaning that there is no air. If there's no airflow going through, that means no water's going to go through. That's kind of how you, that's the determination, right? So put this back. I'm gonna let this do this thing. I actually might take the cork at this point and put the cork in and get some of the wax in the cork. So there's a hole in there somewhere, and eventually I'm going to chase down the holes and start to fill it in. But basically that's kind of how that works. Okay, it's a little warm, but it's not hot. It's a little warm, but for now we'll get it, and we will chase down those seams. I'm going to do this one more time, but like I said, I'm going to get the cork the next time, and I'm going to get some wax on the cork, and that cork is going to make a solid seal, or the plug, I should say, the plug. So this will be kind of the 3rd time I'm blowing into it. I can see where I can hear where the air is escaping. That's going to be on this side of it, which means I need to focus on sealing it on this side. We'll see what happens. And it's a gradual process. I'm not, this is new to me as well, so I'm not tripping on or saying, I'm touting that this is going to be perfect science, because as far as I'm concerned, it is not. And so I think everything else, all the other seams are well coated, except for the side seams. So let me grab this, set this down here, so I cannot pour it down the drain. I do not recommend that if you have a garbage disposal at home, but I want to make sure that this really sits on those seams on both sides. Really want it to sit on those seams. And yes, I'm going to flex them back and forth, because the seals can break, the seams can break. Almost sounds like a drum. So again, I'm gonna let this sit and then blow into it, and again I'm going to be chasing those holes, and then we'll eventually water test it. From my point of view, enough is enough. Good enough is good enough. For me. Now for others that might be different. Making this perfectly watertight. I could spend hours and hours and hours of trying to do this. There's a certain point where it's just like, there's going to be some leakage somewhere. It's not a plastic bottle. It's not a gourd bottle. It's just what it is. We've punched holes and we've made seams. And again, what I'm not doing is doing the outside of it, because I would change the whole motif and color, which is recommended, by the way. The reference to this I'm going to post below, so y'all can have that. If you want to follow that, please do. Enough is enough for me at the end of the day. So I think I can probably get one more run out of this. And then I'm gonna be done. Okay, so I've already filled this with beeswax like 3 times. I've blown into it. There are some escape hatches, escape holes. I'm choosing not to shine the outside with beeswax, which I guess would seal these holes, and then that would be a targeted thing, and that's probably easily remedied, you know. But just to make a thing, you know, real quick and dirty. And then we have our cork here, or our plug. Not necessarily cork, it's just a plug that I've already added. So it has some beeswax too, and I've added some dogbane fibers too as a retainer. So let's see how watertight this is. I'm interested. I haven't really let this like sit and how do you say, macerate, but I'm curious, because that would be another day process just to let this stuff sit. But this is actually a solid canteen, as you can. And then I want to see how, you know, how much liquid water it retains. So put the water on, which will help cool down the wax inside, because it's a little warm. And maybe I'm premature, because maybe I should let the wax like warm and do its thing. Maybe I should, but I'm not gonna. So, that means when the bubbles up like that, it's like, there's no place for the air to escape. Which means we might have sealed it pretty well. And that's just running it, right? And then I have my little stopper here, which, you know, I could plug that in, and that's just gonna get, I'm not saying that it's gonna be upside down waterproof, which, something happening. Something happening. Water's not running out. Water's not running through like vociferously. So we might actually have a viable vessel. Well, we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I might be wrong. But we might have a viable vessel. So we'll see what happens. But my thing is, I want to see how much we're retaining. How much water or liquid we are retaining in our vessel. So I'm going to pour this out. So this is what it looks like. This is what leather looks like when it's wet. I haven't atomized the outside, but oh my gosh, it's actually not leaking, you know, anywhere. Oh. So this is what we get. Three cups, approximately. Oh yeah, exactly 3 cups. Exactly 3 cups. So 3 cups of water. And then I will translate that into liters and la la la. For you cats across the pond, that's like 700 milliliters apparently. So, wow. Yeah, wow. So 700 milliliters, 3 cups. This is maintaining just off top, and I haven't really done anything on the outside. I am about to finish it off and make it shine and put some atomized wax onto it. But God bless it. This project turned out great from my point of view. Yay. Again, if this inspires you, please put a little ducat in the tip jar. You know, hit a brother up. You know, share. You know, subscribe and all that. And again, I'm gonna put my resource for this because I didn't come up with this. I was inspired by other YouTubers doing this, and I had the materials and I had the know-how. So I'm like, whoa, this is working out. So I think, and again, I don't LARP, live action role play. Life is live action role play. How about that? Think about that. So I don't do that. So, you know, this is something I would wear. This is something I would carry. This is something I would do. So you cats that are LARPing, you are truly LARPing. I throw that out there. So here's a leather costrol that we built and finished. The strap is out of leather. It's vegetable tan, cowhide, with a wood cork and dog bane keeper retainer. Goes in here. It holds 3 cups of water, and I think it turned out okay. I actually like this style. I actually like the way it looks. I will probably make another one once I get some more leather. But yeah, it turned out okay. It turned out pretty good, and it works, and it's pretty nice. And then I put some atomized leather sheen, or excuse me, not leather, wax on the outside and polish it, so that's the sheen that you're seeing now. But on the inside there's wax which keeps it from leaking. You know, and again, over time I'm sure you'll probably have to retreat it and things like that, but I will use this. I want to make a strap because water is heavy when you carry it, so I want to make something to where it's going to disperse. I don't know what it's called, but I want to make something that'll be wider that I can feed the strap through. But in the meantime, and maybe even a smaller one that it go around my waist if I was just wanted to wear it around my waist. But for now, right now, this is what we created. This is the finished product. I think it turned out okay. Again, you just need leather, some leather working tools, and some beeswax. And then there you go. You can have your little leather canteen. And like I said, this holds 3 cups of water. And you know, more than enough generally on a slight day hike or whatever. So you can always on your way, you know, put some iodine tablets or whatever, a little bit of bleach in there if you have to find a stream or a creek or a lake to refill this canteen. So there's the finished product.